It was mentioned unemployment. Well, I will give you some figures. 35% of the young people in Brussels are unemployed. And if you take the big neighborhoods, the big communes, like Schaerbeek, Saint-Jos, Anderlecht, and so on, you will not come over there. You will stay in the nicer neighborhood, of course. Then you speak of 50% of young people who don't have a job. 1/3 of the Brussels population live in poverty. I mean, these are, to me, hard figures, and to really change something to this, you need a common project. I think when we see the situation as it is very important to that every actor takes its possibility, its responsibility, and its role to change things. For me, one of the most important actors is the state. I mean, knowing that the state the last 20 years has chosen rather for a punitive state, punitive measures, and in France we have an excellent example, but also in other countries in Europe, knowing that they have been choosing more and more for the punitive measures, I think that it's our duty as civil society, as parents and so on, to ask for a different kind of state. And for me, a different kind of state is a social state. When we are talking here, as I was talking about education, as I was talking about unemployment, there are other figures about the health problems, about the housing problems, and so on. These are social problems. And to deal with social problems, you need a social state. I mean, for me, that's quite clear. On the other hand, I think an important role to play there is also from the civil society. At this moment, the civil society, the only worry they have is how to keep employed the people that they are employing, and how to find a way to get subsidized in one way or another by the state. Well, this is a very sad fact. I mean, a sad fact because it's not that many people from the civil society don't want to change things. They want to change things, they want to do something positive, but if you are supported each year on level of projects, and you have to extend your projects, and you have to, you are dependent to subsidies, well, how can you, the government ask you to change things on a structural level? The government asks you to put structures. How can you do that when you are supported, let us say, only on a project basis, only on year by year? I think it's very important that all actors within the civil society, send a clear message to policy, to the state, that they ask, let us say, money that can be used on a structural level, and not just some little projects where they should convince the government that they are changing the reality by proposing some figures. Now, on the other hand, I think that the parents has also a role to play, and the young people themselves. I work with young people. For me, it's very important, to mention the aspect of responsibility that the young people have. But you have to see on which level can they take responsibility. You cannot say to a young person, get out of poverty. I mean, it's impossible. When we talk about young people, we are talking about one of the weakest groups in our society. That's important, I think, to keep in mind. Very often, if, I don't know what is the background of most of the people here, I didn't have a close look to the list, but most of the, for example, young people with who I work, I've seen tens of them. I've never seen the father. So they're mostly single families of single mothers. That's also a group which is having a very hard time today in our society. And if you see then the situation at home, well, sometimes you have the kids trying to help their parents who are depressed, who are unemployed, and so on. So just to give you a short idea of, of the situation of this youth. On the other hand, I think what we should do is, there is the critical message, but there is also another message. We need a positive message. We need some idealism if we really want to change things. For me, what is central and what should be done is first of all, invest indeed in education. If you want, as I said before, if you want to change something in society, you need to change the education system. You need to improve things over there, and you need also to really choose for policies, you know, who put clear that they want to invest in young people. And another important thing for me is accept the fact that the state, civil society and parents have a role to play. I think it's also important to really engage young people themselves. In some of my projects on which I'm working, tomorrow is the closing of one project. The title, for example, of the project is Empowerment Through Engagement. And maybe a third aspect that is also essential, I think, today is, even though the word empowerment has been misused very much on policy level, in particular by EU, when I think of empowerment, I go back to the 60s and to the 70s, to people like Paulo Freire. I don't know if you know him, Brazilian pedagogue. I think what we should do today is also empower young people. Empowerment for me means, you know, to bring young people together to ask social change. And this is an important point. The young people, there are many frustrations for young people and for other people in our society because they see their situation just worsening. Well, when you ask social change, and when you see the social change, when you experience the social change, when you are part of this social change, then I think you have a complete different approach to the reality. But that's why we need also the positive examples, because there are positive examples. Another project which was recently closed, and I also make documentaries. You can find the documentary on YouTube. Le titre en français c'est Parcours Inspirant. Is, for example, to focus on also on the stories of those young people who who make it, who can achieve something. And let these examples not be the only examples. Let's take these role models and let's make use of them. The name of this project, for example, was The Inspirator, where we took a group of young people from Brussels, and they have to come and realize their own project. And through this project, the essential point of this project was that they had to get involved other young people themselves. For example, just to give you a short view of some of the projects, there was this girl living for 2 years here in Brussels, and she's of Russian origin, and she has a project to go around through the schools in Brussels and to speak with newcomers, new arrivals, with young people, about how do they feel when they are in a new country, this whole different way of living that they face here, different religion, different culture, and so on. Or another project by a group of young people who are attending university and who are helping their people in their neighborhood, in this poor neighborhood, Skarbek, one-to-one following up of kids having difficulties at school. But they don't just focus on school. They take these young people, they take them twice a week and they do things with them. They bring them in contact with different cultures, with different languages, and so on. So let me then close with this maybe more positive message. I think it's important to not neglect the hard reality, but at the same time, I think it's also important to send a message of hope, not a naive message, not a message which is not real, but one which is there. And I think if you look at the reality, the young people want to do things, the young people want to be creative, want to do something with their life, but we have, as I said before, we have to understand them, and we have to get the best out of them from partly from their perspective. It doesn't mean that we should do everything they ask, because at the end they are young people. It's normal that they don't know, let us say, how the labor market function and so on the best. But let us not be too laissez-faire, but let us also not be too paternalistic. Thank you very much.